Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ministry of Guitar, and this is a very unique Gibson Les Paul. It's not what you might think it is, but as you can tell by just this little headstock right here, all resplendent in purple, this is a Les Paul Custom. But this is not just any other Les Paul Custom, this is the Les Paul Custom Stealth, and this thing comes with, I think, two or three features that don't usually come on Les Pauls. And I would argue that this probably, though there are only 10 of these in the world, there is a certain spec that appeals to players. And if you want a Gibson Les Paul custom with those specs, this probably is the only model that provides that. Okay, so with that out of the way, and I'm going to plug it out so that these EMGs don't discharge on me, let's talk a little bit more about this guitar. Okay, so this was a small run a few years ago. I think it was in the early 2010s. You can just Google it. It's just slipping out of my mind. And this was made just before Gibson shifted over to Rich Light for fretboards. So that's already going to give you a clue about something unique about this guitar. So this is a Les Paul Custom. So it's a full thickness, double binded, as you can see, all the specs that you would expect. But what made it unique were three things. One was the purple color for the binding and the headstock overlay. So you've got purple binding on the front back like you would have in a Les Paul Custom. And you also have the beautiful, the Les Paul Custom, what's it called? Inlay, headstock inlay, and binding as well in purple. So that's unique about this guitar. The other thing, of course, which you can point to is the electronics. So this is configured for active electronics. These are EMGX humbuckers, standard from the factory. These are not retrofitted. That's another clue. And then you have and by the way, on the binding, I forgot to mention the purple binding across the fretboard. Sorry, as well, because all Les Pauls have binding. I don't think it's coming across very well in the light, but yeah, there we go. I think the camera is catching it a bit better now. So there we go. And then you have this completely empty, no inlays, beautiful, simplistic, minimalistic, unadorned ebony fretboard. So if you were to want a Les Paul with unmarked ebony fretboard, no inlays, this is probably the only guitar that you can get with that. I think there are very few, but this is one of the only few, especially for a Les Paul custom. I can't think of any other one, but if there are, please tell me. I'm not the foremost expert on Gibson Les Pauls. And with the combination of active electronics, standard from the factory, and this is important because usually in a Gibson, if you mess around with the standard, sorry, the what is the factory spec, you affect the value of the guitar, and these are not cheap guitars to begin with, so you do need to think about that. So if you want a Gibson which comes with a factory active electronics as well as an unadorned ebony fretboard, which many metal players really like, this is it. One of these 10 guitars is what you can get. And though this has the purple is extremely subtle, and that gives this guitar that ultimate stealth vibe. I do wish that they had completed the stealth vibe with, blacked out hardware as well. That would have really completed the look. But well, at least these do kind of match the frets, so it's not all lost. But I would definitely have preferred for it to have the blacked out hardware as well. Otherwise, specs are standard: mahogany body, maple top, which you can't tell because it's painted, and mahogany neck. Sound wise, this sounds like like any other Les Paul custom. It's a very good weight. It's slightly heavy, which is what you would want with a Les Paul Custom, but not very heavy, excessively heavy or so. It balances just like a Les Paul does. And these humbuckers, which are EMG X, are surprisingly nice. If you're like me or like most metal players, you do play a lot of Metallica and Megadeth on occasion. And really, there's nothing that nails that old school 80s thrash. Even some Judas Priest as well, right? Because even Glenn Tipton used EMGs. So there's nothing that kind of slays that thrash sound like an EMG. Of course, Fishmans are all the rage right now. But I personally find that EMGs sound a certain way. They have a certain purpose, and a lot of the music that I like was played on EMGs, whether it's Metallica, whether it's Children of Bodom, whether it's Megadeth. They were all played on EMGs, so that sound is the sound. You put this with like either a Mesa or like a EVH 5150 kind of a sound, and you will immediately get into the land that you get into. So that's what I really like about these pickups. So that's the purpose that this guitar really has for me. I just keep it in E standard, and I play whenever I'm in a Metallica downpicking Master of Puppets kind of a mood, or even a Painkiller kind of a mood from Judas Priest. This is the guitar I just use for that. It's not my sound as such, but that's the sound I really like, and this guitar nails it. And it has, for a Les Paul player, there is a certain, though it's a bit ironic to say, there's a certain playability of a Les Paul. You're just used to how it plays. And this guitar plays like a very good Les Paul. Like quality on this was pretty decent. It's what I've noticed is custom shop Les Pauls usually do not have any problems. It's usually the made regular USA ones that have all the QC issues. So this is a wonderful, amazing playing Les Paul that just about nails the metal sound. The other thing I do want to note is there is something magical also about putting a EMG in a Les Paul. So an EMG already kind of beefs things up. It's a very solid sound, as you might know. It's a very thick sound, particularly for the neck pickup, yet you get a lot of clarity on the bridge, especially when you palm mute, you get that sound. Something about a Les Paul gives it even more body. I know officially the bodies don't matter so much when you have active pickups. Maybe it's psychosomatic, but I have clearly noticed on this one, I have a few guitars with EMGs in them, but this one is the best sounding for me. It just has a kind of weight and a body that just crushes it for metal. So this is the ultimate metal Les Paul. Okay, so I'm just going to run you through the tones. We're going to do the cleans and the dirties, and the dirties will be very dirty, as this should be. All right. We're going to connect it back now. So you may have noticed I made the subtle switch from neck to bridge bridge to neck over there. Clean sounds wise, it's gonna sound just like you've got that typical. I almost called it the kill. I almost called it the Master of Puppets, or that whole Ride the Lightning kind of a clean sound, right? You have to be so careful. Especially on the bridge pickup. Maybe a bit of chorus, shall we? In case you're wondering, it's not that I can't play it. I'm just being careful for the police. But yeah. Or yeah, it's a Les Paul. It will go out of tune, so bear with me for that. Especially the G string, right? We all know that. You own a Les Paul, that G string is gonna bother you. So don't deduct marks for that. And if you do, don't play a Les Paul. Play something else. Like an ESP Eclipse, which is awesome. Yeah, that off note should just about throw the throw the YouTubers off. Anyways, so yeah, this thing runs either in clean or in crazy gain. It's very tight sound. I really like the neck pickup sound on a EMG in a Les Paul. It's so beautiful and sweet and thick. Anyways, so those are the sounds. Very copyright safe in a way. All right, final thoughts and impressions on this guitar. I really, really like it. So I have been through a lot of Les Pauls, and only three have survived. Yeah, only three have survived. When I say survived, they've stayed in my collection. I didn't do anything else to them. There is this guitar. There is the Bonner Bird, which I'll talk about in a second, and then there is the Alex Lifeson a Gibson Les Paul Access with the Floyd Rose. Those are the only three Les Pauls that have stayed. And I've been through like multiple standards, multiple customs, what have you. So the reason this guitar has stayed is it serves a very clear brief, right? So as a Les Paul player, if you like playing metal, especially 80s classical where metal started, nothing nails it better than this guitar. Yeah, you can get with humbuckers and you can get and amps, you can get the gain sounds, but you need an EMG to play all of that stuff. Fishmans don't sound the same. So this is why this guitar stays, because I do love my Metallica and Megadeth and Judas Priest and Children of Bodom and probably countless other metal bands that have that sound. And I do play them and I do play those songs and learn those songs to improve my skills. So this guitar serves the purpose for that, and so it stays. Secondly, there is something magical about having EMGs in a Les Paul. Of course, I could put them on any Les Paul, but again, I generally, keeping in mind that guitars are a very expensive hobby, so you don't destroy value just like that. And the moment you modify a Gibson, you are affecting the value, and not to mention the cost of modifying it. So with that in mind, if I wanted a metal-oriented Les Paul with EMGs, this was it. I'm not the biggest fan of the unadorned ebony fretboard. I actually like inlays, but that's a small price to pay. One thing that you should note about this guitar is the fretboard dots are almost impossible to spot, which is depends on how you play and what you're comfortable with. For me, I have found it doesn't affect me that much, which tells me something about my playing maybe. But it can be a problem. It's a very easy fix. You can probably stick some non-destructive kind of fret markers if you want on top of the little black dots. But do note that if you plan to buy this guitar. Other than that, it's pretty awesome and no complaints. Everyone needs a Les Paul custom in their collection. I had two other Les Paul customs before this with that intent, and I sold both of them, but this one's not going to go anywhere. All right, hope this was helpful if you're looking for this particular guitar, or if you're lucky enough to find one in your vicinity and the guy is selling it, get it. Absolutely get it. All right, till next time.